Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 28. I am your host, VyseTheBold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And PyroJackFrost.
And we have another great episode. No special guests this week. However, you will have to put up with the normal hosts.
God.
And then this is where everyone stops listening.
Vice, Lotus, and Pyro. Oh.
Anybody who's here for our friends will not be happy this time around.
I only listen to the podcast for the guy who's not them.
Not they.
That's a question.
I'm taking out the red marker on you. Anyway,
you might be right. Yeah.
No, I am, but nobody talks like that. Shut up.
Well, they made fun of that on the Venture Brothers. Like, are those they? It was amazing.
Just shut up. No.
Yep.
Pyro, take it away.
All right. Well, first I want to apologize because so I thought that I completely avoided the con plague, but it was just a delayed reaction on my part. And I've been sick like the
put up a
past
good
few
fight
days.
and
Yeah.
succumbed to
Well,
it, unfortunately.
it didn't help that I think my girlfriend caught the con plague, and I was basically like living in it for.
You were incubating.
I was living.
Yeah, I was incubating it, and eventually my body's like, "Fuck you! No, you're just doing it. Just do it. Just do it." And I'm like, "Ah." And it sucks because I actually have to teach the next 2 days. But anyway, besides that, so I finished Bloodborne, so I'm not going to talk about that. Although I've had like strong urges to play it again, but I kind of feel like I need to move on. So I've been playing Final Fantasy 15. I borrowed it from a friend. It's actually really fun.
It's really fun, isn't it?
Yeah, when I first heard about it with like a bunch of guys just hanging out, going on a road trip, I'm like, this just sounds kind of dumb, but it's actually really enjoyable. Like,
it's very
seeing them,
heartwarmingly, like it's so bro-y that you're like, oh man, this is great.
Yeah, and I really like looking at the pictures that Prompto, one of your party members, takes, and like their banter, although they repeat the same lines of banter over and over again, I still just like hearing them banter with each other, and they all make tons of puns, which is great.
Nice.
Like, so the main character's name is Noctis, and Prompto, I guess he's like the Joker one. Whenever you kill an enemy, he'll say, "Knocked another one out." And there's all these puns, and it's stupid but fun.
Does he come up with these prompts or these puns impromptu?
He does.
Yeah.
So it's really enjoyable. It's really fun. I'm 20 hours into the game on chapter 3 out of 15 because I've just been doing all these side quests and just driving around in the car. It's fun. My girlfriend is really annoyed with it because she wants to watch me play the game, but she's like, "Are you going to actually play the story, or are you just going to do all this side stuff over and over?"
No,
again?
The side stuff's actually the good part.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah,
now with
I actually heard that it's 6 hours of story and another like 50 hours of side stuff.
Like the side stuff is like the actual attraction, like exploring the world and doing like the bounties, and it's so much fun. I love it.
Yeah, it's really fun. I enjoy it. I'm gonna be playing it for a while, and it didn't help that just today, today being Monday, they released the Moogle Chocobo Festival or Carnival or whatever it's called, and I was just playing it before the podcast, and it's really fun because it's a bunch of mini games you're doing to collect these medallions to get prizes. It's really stupid fun, and it's just funny because I was thinking, you know what, I'm going to move on with the story today. Nope, not happening. But also, it's actually very interesting because as I'm playing through this side DLC stuff, your party members aren't there with you, and I actually feel like I miss them. Like, it's just Noctis going through this carnival, and I'm like, where are all my bros? It's so lonely without them.
Huh. I guess that means the game's doing its job.
Yeah, but it's also a really funny part is whenever you eat some new food or get a new ingredient.
I love the food.
Ignis, well, something about that. So first of all, Ignis, your party member who does the cooking, will be like, I've concocted a new recipe. And it's funny because in the DLC, this carnival, Noctis eats some food, and Ignis isn't there, but he mocks Ignis by basically mocking in his voice, "Oh, I've concocted a new recipe."
That's fantastic.
A new recipe.
It's getting meta, man.
I love stuff like that.
It's really interesting, though, what you said about the food. Apparently, I don't know if either of you knew this, they actually hired a chef to come and cook all the food so they could 3D render it.
That's
all
fantastic.
The in-game food is not real pictures. It's them 3D rendering food that was cooked for them.
That's awesome.
That is such like an excessive, like, only Square Enix or the guys who make like Gran Turismo would ever do this kind of thing or have the money to do this kind of thing.
Years from make the game.
Yeah,
because
they're
the food.
digitizing food, and they have like a single girl making cobblestones. Like
the best the best digitizing is Lethal Enforcers 1.
A lot of it did change like throughout those 10 years, but yeah, it took a while for them to do all this. Also, I watched the Final Fantasy 15 movie, the Kingsglaive movie, and it's really confusing. I mean, it was an enjoyable movie, but it was kind of confusing, and I played the first chapter before I watched the movie. Not that it really matters, because whereas chapter 1 ends is like the big part of the movie, and I still feel like the movie's confusing, but I'm hoping that the further I get in the game, the more everything will piece together.
The end
I'm not sure
of the movie makes the least amount of sense. Like, the beginning is actually pretty cool, and the middle is pretty cool, but then at the end you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like a kaiju movie. Like,
yeah. And it's just like a giant fight scene with just like big fights and little fights going on, and like they're all intermingling, and it's fun to watch, but it's like, okay, doesn't make any sense. I also feel like I should watch the anime Brotherhood, because I think I heard that it explains how the 4 of the main characters met and why they're friends.
Yeah, I hear the anime's better than Kingsglaive, to be honest. So
yeah, I don't think there's any like real story implications like that where you'll get confused about stuff in the game, because basically you start the game and you just know they're friends. So I don't know if there's anything that you need to watch it, but I kind of am curious about how they became friends. So I might watch that eventually too. But yeah, I have a feeling I'll be talking about Final Fantasy for the next few weeks. Although I am looking forward to in February. What's that new game called that's coming out where you're fighting? It's like basically like you're a woman who wields bows and arrows and you're fighting robots.
Oh yeah, it's the PlayStation game.
Zero Dawn? No.
I know
Zero Dawn. I think it's like Zero Horizon.
I really want to play that.
I want to play that. Zero Dawn, is that it?
Yeah, I had all the words, just not in the right order.
Yeah.
I can't wait to play that because it looks bitchin'.
Yeah, I'm hoping I finish Final Fantasy in time so I can play that because that looks cool. And a few other things I wanted to like put in here really quickly. I haven't really played a lot of multiplayer games on my PlayStation, but I had a few friends over the past few weekends, and a couple weekends ago, one of the friends actually. So he used to work at a GameStop, and because of that, he knew that he could go to GameStop, buy 3 PS4 controllers, so we could all play multiplayer games, and then he returned them later and got his full money back. So he basically rented PS4 controllers from GameStop. But we played a bunch of games that I don't really want to get too much of like tangents on these, but I'm just gonna like list them out and say that they were like really fun. So we played Towerfall Ascension, which is probably my favorite multiplayer game.
Yeah, that was
fun.
I
haven't really had a chance to play a lot of that, but after playing it, that's amazing. We played Overcooked, Star Wars, which is basically narwhals in space jousting.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of fun.
We played Tricky Towers, which actually have either of you heard of Tricky Towers?
I'm not.
No,
sure.
I don't know that one actually.
All right, so Tricky Towers is think Tetris.
Oh yeah, I have heard about this. Okay, yeah.
But you can move the pieces in half steps, and everything has to balance. Like if you put a weird shape in a weird way, it just like falls over. So it's actually really fun, and it took me a while to get a hang of the game, but once I did, it was really, really fun. We played Magicka 2, which I love Magicka.
I want to play those. I actually would really love playing that with you because I feel like it would be a lot of fun.
It's just really hard to play with people because
it's like Gauntlet, right?
It's like Gauntlet, but you have to cast your own spells, and there's lots and lots of like friendly fire.
Oh, okay.
So, and it gets really difficult. It gets kind of annoyingly difficult with all these enemies they throw at you. But it was fun for a little while.
Those guys actually made the last official Gauntlet game. Like they saw how good Magicka and Magicka 2 were, so they hired them to make Gauntlet.
Oh yeah, I downloaded. I don't know if it's the same one, but I downloaded the one that's on PS4. But I didn't get a chance to play it yet. Okay. I also played. What's it called? It's a game where it's made by the same people who did Scott Pilgrim, or the same artist. Mercenary Kings.
Mercenary Kings, yeah. Scott Robertson.
Yeah. I played it with my friends, and I feel like I need to play it by myself first to know what the point of the game is, because it was not fun to go into it with 4 people who don't know what's going on. Because like it's kind of like I remember you mentioning it to me like a while ago that it's basically a 2D Borderlands, and I can kind of see that because there's like quests and like levels that you have to beat, but it's 4-player split screen, and if you don't know what's going on, it's really hard to understand it. So I really feel like I need to get a hang of it before playing it again with more people.
I would like to play that one too.
Yeah, but out of all those games, I know that my girlfriend really likes Overcooked, and that was really fun. I really like competitive. I don't really like the single player as much because, like, lots of arguments going on about who should be doing what jobs, because there's always too many jobs for the amount of people that you have.
That's funny.
But competitive is really fun, especially because in a certain stage you can actually mess with the other person. So I kept trying to steal the other people's completed foods and sell them from their counter.
That's awesome.
And then once they stopped me from doing that, I was just taking their chopped vegetables and like using them and giving them to my chef to cook with. So I was basically messing with them the whole time.
Excellent troll.
I did it just enough so they started worrying about me, and instead of worrying about their own food. So I was able to still win from that. But yeah, out of all those games, I think my favorite was Towerfall Ascension and Tricky Towers. And Towerfall Ascension is it's great. Like, even when I was losing, I still was having tons of fun with it, because just getting some of the shots you can make. Yeah. I really found out I always get the longest shot because I found out how far the arrow goes. So someone's like on the other end of the map, and I'll be in the right spot to shoot the arrow and like kill them from across the map, and they'll be like, "Wait, what just happened?" Also, you've both played Towerfall Ascension, right?
Yeah, that's the only one of the games you've listed that I have played, but it's a blast.
Did you know that you can dash into arrows to pick them up?
Yeah, we eventually picked that up after like 10 or 15 minutes of like just kind of round after round, and all of a sudden, like, we became aware that we could, but we're like, oh, it's not practical. And then we learned that it totally is practical, and not only can you catch an arrow, but if someone rapid fires, you kind of are in a catch phase while you're dashing. So you can catch like machine gunned arrows at you if you dash into all of them. It's pretty great.
Did you know that you can dash into your own arrows after shooting them?
Yes.
There's actually
that never came up. That's pretty cool.
There's actually an achievement you get. Not achievement, but like, you know how they give you the little, like, I don't want to say trophies like or achievements.
Rewards,
Rewards, like titles that you can get after.
Titles, yeah.
So there's like a renege one where you've caught most of your own arrows.
That's awesome.
And I was fighting against someone, and they were like machine gunning me and dashing, but they ended up basically just dashing into their own arrows, and I just got one shot off on them because they didn't even get any arrows off because they were just catching them as they were shooting them at me.
That's pretty good.
Really
but
cool.
Yeah, so it was really fun, and it's funny because we play a lot of board games, but it ended up being us playing these video games, and we've kind of just the past 2 weekends I've been playing all video games and no board games. And it's actually gotten me into the multiplayer games, and it's good because I get to use a lot of the games I got on PS Plus.
You guys should check out Samurai Gun one of these times, because that is a more melee focused kind of Towerfall kind of game.
Oh, okay.
And you have a gun in that one instead of bows and arrows, but it's a similar type of game in that you'll immediately think of it, that it's a similar game. But
is that on
a lot
PS4?
Of people, actually, it's for Steam. I think it's Steam only at the moment. But a lot of people say that it's more technical than Towerfall is. Okay. So it has better potential. Like, if you want to have like a really rockin' like serious game. I mean,
well,
like,
a lot of people I play with are not like huge gamers, so I think it would be like too complicated if that happened. Because there's like 2 people that are huge gamers and like 3 people that aren't.
Sure.
So if it's really technical and that could give people a benefit, then it probably won't be a fun game as much for the people who don't play as much games.
All right. Well, I still would keep an eye out for it.
Yeah.
I certainly have it on my laptop, so we could play it next time we get together. for sure.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so that's my week. A lot of Final Fantasy multiplayer games. Lotus, what about you?
Okay, I guess I pretty much have two games and one sort of real world thing. The first is that I mentioned Doom 2016 one or two podcasts ago, but at this point I've finally beaten it, and sure enough...
I think you talked about it 1 and 2 podcasts ago.
Oh, there we go. But yeah, so I finally beaten it, and it was super cool. Surprise, surprise. I ended up getting all of the secrets in it because I used like a YouTube guy that showed me where the secrets were, because I didn't really feel like... Yeah, I mean, I don't even care. Like, I'm not gonna play the same levels and scrutinize them for hours just to like.
Yeah. So you got the Idol of Sin one, where you
Icon of Sin. Yeah, that was my favorite. Yeah, you hear the
really
"You
cool.
must beat me, John Romero" backwards, and it makes that like sound when it launches the breath. I was like, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, you actually shoot a rocket into the dead Icon of Sin.
Yeah, the forehead
like
where you were supposed to shoot it. That was such a clever idea. So yeah, I got every single secret and I unlocked every classic level. I have not beaten every classic level, but I unlocked them and they're super cool. And
I've heard that Doom 2016 is great. I played the demo of it and I really enjoyed it. I just haven't got a chance to actually play it myself.
My favorite game by far last year. Yeah. So good.
And I also got every single upgrade. So I maxed out my runes. I maxed out all of my weapons. They're more generous.
Those challenges are so much fun, aren't they?
They're pretty good. The game also gives you something like 10 or 12 more weapon tokens than you need in case there are some that you're like, oh, I'm not getting these. But
that's nice. I was actually wondering that when I was playing the game because I know you had to like choose which. At least in the beginning of the game, choose which upgrades you want.
Yeah, you can max and you have more than enough for it.
Okay.
No, not only you're not locked out, you have a surplus. The only thing that I thought was a little weird is that, like, I guess I see the logic of it. Like, the chainsaw is not part of your, like, number key weapon loadout. You have to press, like, a special key for it, like G or something. Or you could press 1 twice, like, swap from the pistol to the chainsaw. Same goes with the BFG. The BFG isn't weapon number 7 like it would have been in classic Doom. It's like the letter T, or it's like something where it's not one of the numbers. It's like a super special weapon. So you cannot mod the BFG. At the same time, though,
I guess it's badass enough that you don't need it.
That's the thing. The BFG is freaking stupid. I think it has a max loadout of like 3. Like one shot is freaking dumb. Like, not only does it destroy whatever it touches, but it like crackles electricity looking energy like at whatever it passes by but doesn't directly connect with. It's so dumb. It's amazingly fun to shoot it through a hallway and just everything, like a fully crowded hallway, just everything's gone. It's pretty amazing. It's hard to find ammo for it, but of course it is.
I guess the whole chainsaw thing is because the chainsaw is basically, and like your gun are your main weapons. And from what I'd heard, it's because different things drop depending on how you kill enemies, so you need to always have...
Yeah, they're clever with it. The BFG ammo you can only find. Enemies will not drop it unless you have a particular rune equipped. That's the whole thing. If you kill enemies normally, if you're really low on health, they might drop some health. If you're really low on ammo, they might drop some ammo. But under normal circumstances, if you glory kill an enemy, so you stun it and then you walk up to it in melee for the coup de grace, then you will get health. And if you have a particular rune equipped, then you might get armor too.
You should be doing it all the time.
That's how you should play the game. Now, the chainsaw can one-shot an enemy, but it has very limited uses, and you must find particular ammo for the chainsaw that you could only find on the map no matter what. Like, you will not get it anywhere else.
And for bigger enemies, you will need more fuel.
Yeah, so if you have like 5 charges, like this enemy takes 3, so you can't just kill 5 enemies with 5 chainsaws necessarily. But when you do use a chainsaw, you could either use it to kill something that's really scary that you don't want to deal with, but no matter what you kill, you might even want to choose to use it on a lower level enemy, because whatever you kill drops stupid amounts of ammo. Like, so you're supposed to use the chainsaw either in an emergency because an enemy's scary, or because you're really low on ammo and this is your second wind, basically. Of course, you cannot use the chainsaw on bosses that actually have health bars, because you're supposed to fight those properly and you must glory kill them.
The flow of this game, I have to tell you, is unlike any other first-person shooter. Like, it just
usually
like the way that you grapple on enemies, like, and kind of like automatically swing to them, like to do their glory kills and everything. Just like, and while you're gunning it as it is
that's
so much fun. So
usually the way I play first-person shooters is I'll either just bum rush everything because I'm a tank, depending on like if I've gotten a lot of upgrades. Like in Deus Ex, eventually I just murder everything. Or, if I'm playing early game Deus Ex, then I'll basically find a spot and then just snipe everyone's heads from there. Like, standing still.
Yeah, that's how I play.
But in Doom, standing still is the worst thing you can do. With the most basic enemies in the game, the zombies, who cares? But for every single other enemy in the game, including imps, which are still pretty low level, you must move. Either to chase them or to get away from where they're firing at you. Because the imps themselves and other enemies like them they have no problem jumping across platforms or climbing up or jumping up and down to get to where you are. So you really cannot afford to move. Like it's move or can't afford not to move. It's move or die. The thing is though, once you get good at the game, you're just kind of used to moving. So it's this sort of
all the time.
Yeah, it's almost this merry-go-round of just like you chasing enemies and enemies chasing you, but you're used to it, so you're really good at platforming and firing in a first-person shooter. And let me tell you, normally platforming in first-person shooters sucks, but with this, you can be a little bit less accurate because you have a gimmick where if you jump not quite on a ledge, but up to where about the rim would be, you kind of grab it and boost yourself up, like in System Shock 2. So you can constantly be climbing and jumping down things, and you don't take fall damage. Like, you either fall so far that you die, or you take no damage. So, like, you can, if there's ever a time where you fall so far you die, it's during a section that's, like, particularly dedicated to platforming. It's not really supposed to be a major fight zone, with few exceptions. So, really, you can run and jump as you see fit. Like, in most standard arenas, falling will not kill you, so just go wherever you have to go and just murder things. It's an adrenaline rush every time. Like, you'd think you get used to it, and you do in terms of gameplay, but it's still a rush.
I also like that you're kind of planning what enemy that you're going to be jumping to from the one that you're killing right now. You're like, what am I going to do now? I have to plan what I'm going to do next. Like, you're doing crowd control, but you're also doing like chain management too.
Yeah,
like,
you got to prioritize
really
the lost
cool.
souls because they kamikaze, or you got to prioritize the summoners because they warp around and summon. So you got to find where they went and just hit them with the hardest stuff you have just to get them out of the map more quickly. There are power-ups you kind of get that are, some are invulnerability, some are quad damage, and it's like, but should I get those now, or should I wait until the last wave in the room spawns? Like, do I use it in emergency, or do I save it for, like, the big guns? Like, there's a surprising amount of management in a Doom game.
It's
really well
TV
thought out.
Almost. Like, it's like a 3D Smash TV almost.
I could kind of see that.
Yeah, like I've likened the original Doom to that, but like this game even more so. Like,
well, with regular
you have
Doom
arenas.
Well, the big difference here is that with regular Doom, this is like that Futurama joke, but in regular Doom, enemies shoot where you are. In Doom 2016, they actually shoot where you're going to be. Like even imps will track you. Like, so if you see an imp charging up, get ready to jump or stop running. It's bizarre. Like, you have to be afraid of even imps. They're not going to hurt you so much, but it adds up, and there's usually lots of them. So, yeah, like, you have to think while running and gunning and managing in, again, a freaking Doom game. Like, old Doom was scary because there were just so many enemies, but there wasn't much strategy in fighting them, with few exceptions, like the Archviles. Normally, every single enemy is an imp. Like, it throws fireballs at you and has varying health. Maybe some of them fly. But, like, for something like the Pinky, it runs at you. If you hold down the chainsaw button, it's just dead. Like, because it just gets caught up in a loop of being hit by the chainsaw. But Pinkies in 2016 are a death sentence. Like, the chainsaw is the one thing... Well, actually, you can use a chainsaw on the front. But, like, attacking it from the front is the one thing you can't do. Like, they're not invincible from the front, but... close enough. Like, what are you doing wasting your time with this?
Don't do that.
You really have to let them bum rush you and then shoot them from the back. And speaking of which, by the way, I had mentioned in a previous podcast that when you play the classic maps, you play as the Doom 2016 Marine, and you can jump and everything. but the enemies are Doom 2016 enemies. So I had mentioned that the regular gun-toting humans are just the most embarrassing things in the world, but like the Doom 2016 counterparts are actually scary in a classic map. The same thing applies to the Pinkies. The Pinkies were laughable in old Doom. They were just kind of scary because they would show up and they'd be loud, and you'd be like, oh my god, but they were laughable to fight. But because classic Doom was based largely on... They had some big rooms, but a lot of the fighting, they had no problem putting you in mazes and corridors to fight. And a Doom 2016 Pinky in a corridor is like the scariest thing. Like all of a sudden a joke becomes like, I could die from a freaking like Pinky enemy and nothing else on the screen. Like you really have to run it out of the area and find an open space, or else you will probably die to a freaking single Pinky, which is like, you get made fun of for doing that in classic Doom. It's really interesting how the dynamics have changed. So that's Doom. A little more briefly, I think I could talk about. I progressed a little more in Yakuza Dead Souls. Again, it's a zombie shooter. That's the main gimmick. I've gotten a little further in the game, but like Pyro with Final Fantasy 15, I'm like that with the Yakuza games. I will hesitate as much as possible to advance the story because I want to do everything that I can while it's available to me. So I want to like go to all the restaurants and order all the food to get the rewards for that. I want to do all the side missions that I can, because what if some of them are missable, or what if I forget or something, and plus you get experience for doing them. So I'm still on the first character. I'm on his last section of the game. Like each character has 4 segments. I'm on the 4th for him, but I'm still taking my sweet time. So in addition to zombies, some zombies are a little more talented than others.
Savor it.
What? I mean,
savor it.
Well, the thing is, I will, but when I play as a new character, I'm not going to have to go to all the restaurants and do all the things anymore. I'll just do side missions, so it'll still be way quicker. But, like, so zombies vary in quality. Usually, they're just a bunch of different people that slowly walk up to you or sometimes run. Some of them can take a couple more hits, maybe, and shoulder ram you. There are a couple that throw Molotov cocktails. But then there are the mutants. This is something I know without having to look it up, because you can look up like a monster database in the game, and there are 7 slots for mutants, so I know that there are 7 types. At this point, I've encountered 3. One is called the Meathead. It's this giant, like, the villain of the Incredible Hulk movie, like the Abomination. It looks kind of like that. It's like this big shoulder pad looking, like 2 or 3 times as tall as a normal human monster that just does ground pound and big slow punches. And it's really only vulnerable on its head, so you have to take care to aim there, and it's still a bullet sponge, but it's basic to actually fight. The scariest thing about it is if it has friends, like even regular zombies. Then there's what's known as, I think, the Crybaby. It made me sort of think of the Witch from Left 4 Dead. It doesn't quite work like the Witch, but like, it's a woman who's got the long hair.
Same
and
idea.
She's holding her hands over her face and just standing there, and you're like, oh, this is going to be good. She doesn't fight, but she screams and summons zombies. So she's kind of like the lower level zombie from Left 4 Dead, but she looks like the Witch. I forgot what.
Or it's kind of like that enemy from BioShock Infinite, the one that has like the...
Oh, the Noise Boy.
The Noise Boy, yeah.
Or whatever they're called. Those things are scary. Oh my god, that one jump scare one, oh, that got me.
Yeah.
But, so the Crybaby just kind of does just that, and once you finally kill her, you can clear out everyone else, but she's annoying because she'll scream and then try to run away from you, so it's like, oh god. Like, she doesn't even have that much health, but now all of a sudden she has lots of friends backing her up, so you're like, oh man, so you gotta choose who you're attacking wisely. And the last enemy I've encountered is called Monkey Boy. These guys are pretty irritating. They're like skater boys with bike helmets. Their gimmick is they move really quickly, like they do sort of like strafe runs, and then they'll try jumping on you or slide tackling, so you have to be very aware of their presence, because they can very easily sneak up on you. So it's cool that there's diversity in the zombie game. I would certainly hope so, because it's a long game, so far it's doing a pretty good job of that. I haven't really done much in the plot. Like, the plot's so basic. Like, there are 4 characters and they each have their own stories, but Akiyama's is, your assistant is sick, go get her medicine. So you're like, okay, but then when you're out, the area where she's staying gets raided, so now she's in the quarantine zone, and you're like, ah, crap. So that where I'm right now is I need to make my way back into the quarantine zone and give her medicine, and that'll be easy for me to do, but it's going to be a while before I get that done, because I'm doing side stuff. But the game's enjoyable. And the last thing I'll mention before I close out my segment is, the real life thing. My school semester has started this week. So, well, I guess last week. Now it's Monday, so it's week 2. So, the way my classes are arranged, normally what I'm used to is I'll have 2 back-to-back classes, either 2 days a week or 3 days a week. This time, I still have 2 classes, but they are not back-to-back. It just so happens to be arranged that one of them is Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the other is Tuesday, Friday. So I'm going to work every morning. And I have a Saturday class.
Like a real human
Yeah, I know.
being.
This is the worst. Can anybody relate to this? Going to work every morning? And then I have a Saturday class. So I'm actually heading up to the college 6 days a week. The good news...
Wow.
Yeah, but the good news, though, is because I only have 1 class, and they happen to be morning classes. Like, on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, I have noon to 1:20. I have an office hour after that goes till 3, but if no one wants to see me during office hours, then I go home at 1:20. And on on Tuesday, Friday, I have 9:50 to 11:10. And again, I have an office hour right after that from like 11:30 to 12:30. And even if I do that, I'm home before 1. But if no one wants to see me during those days, then I'm back before freaking noon. So there's the good news. So I have to get up early and grumble through that. But by the time I get home, it's almost like I had a day off the entire time. I'm back at like noon. Like, oh, okay. So there's the good news, I guess. One super duper last thing I'll mention is I've talked on previous podcasts about how Mr. Ryu 45 and I have been let's playing a really silly, stupid game. And now that I'm almost done editing the thing, I'm edited 14 parts out of 18, so it's getting to the point where I can start uploading it. I can finally announce what it is. We've been playing Ride to Hell Retribution, and it's hilariously bad. Like, there are 2 installments where it's incompetent in ways that aren't even related to gameplay. There's like a visual glitch in one of them that doesn't go away until I reset my PS3, and there's like a loud noise audio glitch in the very next installment that scared the hell out of us, because it's just like... when like YouTube gets an error, it's just like but like it just came out of nowhere. We're like, what? So it's a good game. super high quality. So I look forward to putting that up, because it gets repetitive with just shooting enemy after enemy, but it's really funny just how many things it got wrong, and yet remains kind of fun to play. Like, it's not such a bad game that it's unplayable. It's like the perfect like Mystery Science Theater video game. It's just like, look at this, really. It's great. So yeah, that's awesome. That's me. That's my news. So how about you, VyseTheBold?
Oh man. So I've been playing a old game, an old classic, this week. This is the main game I actually played all week, because I may do a segment on this later about my newfound love for joysticks and the new ones coming out, but I have been getting into playing shmups and mastering more of them and trying to beat them in 1 credit. So
that's nice. I mean, like, especially some of them are really difficult to do in 1 credit.
Yeah, and especially the ones that I'm trying are the particularly hard ones. But I think that's what makes it fun. Like, I've kind of been playing it like Mr. Ryu watches fighting matches and like studies strategies on how to like counter different moves. I have like strategies on how to get past certain parts of levels better or score better. So the games that I've been playing have really intricate score systems that are very difficult to master. The games are very difficult to begin with, but it's even more difficult if you want to play them well on top of that. So you can just go through it and try to stay alive, which is difficult enough, but scoring well while staying alive is even more difficult. But it's a lot of fun. I've been playing Mushihimesama Futari, which is the second Mushihimesama game, which if you want to do an English translation of that, it's Bug Princess. That's actually the official translation of it. You can actually find it labeled as such in some of the Android and
iOS
ports are called that. Yeah. So there's no good translation of something like Dodonpachi, or like Dodonpachi is like more of like an onomatopoeia kind of thing. But
like Dodon, like that thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually exactly what it is. That's bees buzzing or bullets flying.
Yeah, like they do that in lots of manga sometimes, like booga, like when an enemy gets beaten, it's like nobody actually says that.
Exactly. So the first game in that series is Donpachi, and the second one's called Dodonpachi, so it's even more bullets flying at you. But so the company that makes all of these games that I just mentioned is called Cave.
Cave. Yep.
And they are kind of a successor, one of the successor companies to an old awesome game company called Tau Plan. Who made like a lot of really awesome shmups back in the day, like the Fire Shark games, with the biplane. I don't know if you ever played those.
Probably, but the name doesn't ring a bell.
You basically play as a character that looks like the Red Baron from like World War One.
From Snoopy.
Exactly, from Snoopy.
From Pizza.
And they also made a game called Tatsujin, which is really good. But anyway, it's also called Truxton in America because they didn't have a good way of saying Tatsujin.
Wait, that sounds familiar. Was that the Sega Genesis game?
Yes, exactly. It's the game where you when
your bomb is a giant skull.
Yeah,
awesome. I saw that on the back of your box. I'm like, what?
It's really cool. So yeah, this shmup company went out of business and then made like a bunch of baby companies. One of which was the company that made that Battle Garega game that I played at MagFest.
Yeah, the game that nobody's ever gonna want credit.
Yeah. So apparently that company died and basically became Cave. So it was like a string of companies that went out of business.
Oh wow.
And Cave is holding on, but they're
holding on with their dear life.
Yeah, they're getting more popular all of a sudden because a lot of their games are getting American releases now. Like they're getting Steam releases that are reasonably priced.
Oh, was Cave Death Smiles? Was that one of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cave Death Smiles is probably their most accessible game that they ever released. It is easy to understand. It has a really cool aesthetic, and it has cool looking characters. It has probably the most effort put into the character designs and things like that.
Yeah, and I've said this before, but the
story.
music, especially for level 1, is just so good.
Absolutely. Those games are great, but my favorite at the moment is Mushihimesama Futari, which has a really neat scoring system. I actually really like the scoring system. Is a lot of fun. So in the game, you have like a lot of other cave games, you have two methods of shooting. When you tap the shooting button, it's like a rapid shot, but when you hold it down, you shoot a laser. That's more powerful, and it also slows your character down, so you can have more precise movement. But it also limits it.
I hate the bullet hell games that don't let you slow your ship down.
Yeah, that's actually a big problem, and as games have gotten more and more advanced, they've given you ways to adjust your speed. So in some games, like making your ship too fast is actually a big problem. Like that happens in Gradius. If you make your ship too fast, it's unwieldy.
Yeah, I actually had something similar happen when I was playing, of all games in the world, Vampire Knight. But the point is, it was a light gun shooter, and I wasn't playing with a light gun. I was playing with a controller, and I intentionally set the controller's like sensitivity to the max because I figured, well, there are going to be targets everywhere. I want to get over there. But I was doing a practice mission where I had to shoot a bunch of targets, and it was awful. I realized I had to slow my sensitivity down a lot, and it actually greatly helped.
So with this game, I've been using my old joystick on it, which I'm still having fun with it, but I can't wait for my new one to come. I'll do a more in-depth segment about that perhaps later on in the week. But I am really enjoying it, and I'm getting better and better every time I play it. I can no-miss the first level almost every single time I play the game.
Nice.
So for anybody who doesn't know, it's what it sounds like. So I can play the whole first level, and this is a huge accomplishment because these games are not easy. Like even the first level is difficult, especially for somebody who has never played a shmup before. Do not play this game because it's too hard. It just outright is too hard. I would never suggest this to a newcomer. But for somebody who wants to put in the time to mastering a difficult but rewarding game, for sure, this is great. So I can make it through the entire first level, almost every single time without getting hit once. So that's how you maintain your score in the game. You get a huge bonus at the end of the level for not getting hit. You also get a huge bonus for how many bombs you have left. So if you've retained all of your bombs. Also, dying and bombing lower your score multiplier. So you want to avoid bombing as much as possible. Bombing will lower your score count and also take points away from you at the end of the level. However, it will prevent you from dying, which is a bigger punishment, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to mess up at all, but if you're going to mess up with a bomb.
Well, here's a question. Yeah. You said it takes points away from you at the end of the level. Does it subtract from your score, or do you just not get some sort of no bomb bonus? Yeah.
You don't get the bonus.
Okay.
But those are like essential to a really good score. Let's just put it that way.
It's like rescuing the captives in Metal Slug.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It, and actually has a very similar system to that. You collect a bunch of different types of gems in the level, and if you die, even if it's the same continue, if you die, you actually reset your gem counter. So if you die during the boss of that level, you lose all of your gems, and you don't get any of the multiplier at the end of the level. So it really behooves you to not get to bomb if you're in trouble, because dying is way worse. So you gotta train yourself out of using bombs when you're like in trouble, but also remember that you still should do it if you really
if it's clutch. Yeah.
So it's one of those things, but it's a very rewarding game because you have to shoot differently to score well all the time. You have to switch it up. You can't just rely on your laser. You can't just rely on your rapid. So your score gets counted over in the top left screen. When your score is green, you have to use the rapid shot to make the big gems appear out of the bad guys that you're shooting. And then if it'll turn blue every 3,000 points. And then you need to start using your laser. So you need to switch it. It has like a certain rhythm to it. You need to start using your laser, when it's appropriate. Not only to take down bosses quicker, and also you need to stop using it so you can move around quicker with your rapid. It's really neat. Just the dynamic of switching between the two weapon types is a lot of fun. Very rewarding. It kind of feels like Ikaruga in a way. It's not the same, but you have to keep an eye on a dual system.
Actually,
you know what I mean?
You know what that kind of makes me think of? Not that this is a dual system, but Stormwind almost, where you gotta manage your, maybe it's like 3 weapons or something.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I really enjoy it, and I'm getting better and better. I'm scoring higher and higher in the first level as I get better at the intricacies of it. And I also wanted to let the fans know that this is on Xbox 360. It's an import-only game, but it's region-free, which is really great. So you could play it on your 360 at home here. But there are a bunch of different versions that come with any cave game, and it's really confusing because they will give you all the different revisions of the game, kind of like what Street Fighter 4 did. They have like all the different revisions, like arcade, turbo, super turbo.
Yeah.
And they all have like different layouts of all the bad guys and bullet patterns. You basically want to play the newest one, which is Black Label. and it turns out that a lot of people thought that the DLC was region locked and that you couldn't get it here. But if you can obscurely buy it through like a weird link on the Xbox website. So I was able to purchase the DLC Black Label version of the game. So I was really happy about that. So I've been playing that. Just a couple quick things here. So just like anything else, I always do lots of research on the things that I love. And I love making drinks. I love playing bartender. So I've been getting fed up with regular maraschino cherries. I think they're pretty awful. I know it's a weird thing to get mad at, but like maraschino cherries are like completely fake in almost every single way. Like they are bleached and then dyed.
I like the taste of them, but I know what you're saying.
I love them. I love the way that they taste, but I've had even better ones at like fancy bars. So I was like, oh man, where do they get their cherries from? So I did a bunch of research, and there are apparently 2 Italian companies that make awesome maraschino cherries, and anybody can enjoy these too. Like even if you don't drink, these cherries are really good in like 7-Up and stuff like that. So they're really, really good, and I was able to find them at a specialty grocer. And one of them's made by Luxardo, and the other one is made by Amarena. And I'm gonna test them out and do like a blind taste test to see which one I like better. I'm really excited. They're sweet and really good and really flavorful, so they make any drink that much better. So I'm looking forward to that, and I also wanted to talk just a quick second about Resident Evil 7, which comes out today on release date, on the 24th, I believe. It comes out today, actually, Monday. So early reviews are fantastic for it, which is great, especially considering 6 was probably the worst reviewed game in the main series.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So not that 6 is a completely unplayable game. It has its fans. Some people really thought it was a lot of fun for what it was, and some people just, thought it was okay. Some people hated it. But definitely had some mixed reviews. But this one seems like all the early reviews love it. Different kind of gameplay. Also has VR support for the PlayStation. So I'm really excited about that because I have a PSVR. So I think I'm going to be talking about that in Reactive Consciousness next week because I think I'm going to give it a go. So
nice.
I'm excited about that. Having said that, I do want to do my weigh-in. I was excited this week. I got down to 222.
Nice.
Yeah,
so
congratulations.
Another 2 pounds off. I'm going to keep going. I've had a really good mindset for this, and I've been doing well in watching myself. So I'm really excited. I feel like in another couple weeks, I'll be down below 220, which will be a huge accomplishment for me. So I'm going to celebrate by eating lots of junk food. No, I look forward in the next 2 weeks. I'm not going to say next week or so, but next 2 weeks I think I should have that. And having said that, we could do questions.
Okay, yeah, we could probably do 2, I think. The first one is School Filmer. The question's from him. Have any of you tried... Now, let me go through the whole thing because this is a sort of follow-up. Have any of you tried any music programs or apps? An example is the Rhythmic series, with Rhythmic Ultimate being the most recent one, and it's quite fun if you know what you are doing. And then user Red Wolf followed that up with, I was actually thinking about asking something similar, but mostly about an app called Music Maker Jam. So do you guys use any music programs or apps? Like, I'm afraid I don't.
I remember when I was younger, and my mom had a Mac, I played with GarageBand. For a while, and that was really fun. But I honestly don't make a lot of music. Like if someone put a music thing on my computer and I had nothing else to do, I'd definitely play with it because I do find it fun making music, but it's not really something that I do a lot.
The only kind of thing I ever used to do like that was I played around a bit with Electroplankton when I had that.
Oh yeah,
for the DS, which is Nintendo's like music making software, but it was poorly implemented in that you couldn't save anything that you made. Kind of like Mario Paint was like that too.
I was just gonna say I have made music in Mario Paint.
But it's such a shame that they give you these great creation tools, and that are a lot of fun to even just use, which is a big problem that a lot of music making software and things like that have. They're too technical, so it makes it really difficult for a newcomer to even make sense of what's going on with them. But Nintendo knows how to make that, even like the simple act of doing something that sounds like it's boring, fun. And they screw it up by not letting you save anything that you made.
Yeah, this ironically would be fixed with like emulating the game and just like
Nintendo has a great way of making boring things fun, but then also a great way of screwing things up royally that are actually pretty easy.
Yeah, that's a shame too.
Yeah, they shoot themselves in the foot a lot. Like they had this great idea, but if only they had done this, you know.
Yeah, I mean, even they even made something as simple as like meeting, or the meeting friends like in the hallway, at work, like the street passing, something like fun. You know what I mean? Like that sounds like something boring, but it's the thing that probably people love the most about the 3DS.
Yeah.
But anyway, I would like this kind of thing, but like anything else, I am always afraid of getting into something that I know absolutely nothing about, mostly because I will dive all the way into it and it will take up all of my time.
Yes, and you already have a lot of things taking up all of your time.
Yeah, I have so many varied interests that adding one more thing like music to the equation. Like I used to be a violin player and I was terrible at it because I didn't care. But nowadays, if I played my violin, I would be all over it, if that makes sense. Just because I try really hard about anything that I care about. So it's another one of those things where like if I went full into it, it would absorb me entirely. So I kind of stay away from it, knowing that I have other things that I already pledged myself to.
Okay, so the next question is from Fakafan. This one, I think we might have a little more to say about from experience, perhaps. You talked about translation in this podcast. Do you think translations, movies, games, etc., are taken much more seriously today than it used to be? If so, why? And what factors come into play? Or what factors came into play? Now, he has another question on top of this, but let's stick to the translation stuff for now. Personally, I think it's likely that translations are taken more seriously now just because of a few reasons. Number one, you can kind of tell from just straight up bad translations and like bad dubs of like old anime series and stuff like that where they kind of like just fudge it. But also, I think that now that the internet is a thing and more people can talk to people from other countries and just straight up ask, like, is this translated appropriately? Like, I think there's more of a keen eye from the consumers of the media to want the translators to make sure that they do it right, or at least do it fun. Like, for example, with Xseed, they do it right to the best of their ability, but every once in a while they'll throw in something because it still is serviceable, but it's also an amusing nod to the people who might get the reference being made or something like that.
Yeah, in their Ys 1 and 2 remake, they put in a Hall & Oates reference in like the first 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, and like one thing I noticed, like I did not know this inherently about Japanese, but Mr. Ryu told me that it's a rather stiff language, and there's a part in Corpse Party, the original, that's just disgusting. Like, the game's sprite-based, so you can't really see anything, you just investigate a sink, but the description says something along the lines, like, of there being, like, a cocktail of, like, blood, mucus, etc., and, like, there's no goddamn way that was in the original language, but, like, it's way better that way.
Yeah, I think it's also because... kind of what you said about the internet, but also because we're becoming more of a world, like we talk to each other more time, a world culture. So where we pay more attention to these things, and that's more of an important thing.
That is true.
It's more important for us to translate things correctly.
Yeah, there's a lot less 90s humor. Like, other languages sound silly with their accents or whatever, and like that's the joke. Like, now it's like we're taking all sorts of different languages like in middle and high school. Like, for me,
and I think in general too, it's also because the people who are getting these jobs were probably into it when they were kids, so they want to make it. They are actually being more serious maybe about it. It's not just they're translating it because it's their job. They actually want other people to have fun with the original product, kind of like have as much fun as they would have if they spoke the language. And yes,
that's also Exceed in a nutshell, by the way.
That means they have to sometimes change the humor so we understand, so like an American audience would understand it, but still retain enough of the humor of the original. So I would say it is more serious, but that's because of factors
passion.
More so than just people care about translations more.
Yeah, I would say that there's more of an attention to detail on an idea of translating an idea rather than direct language now.
Yeah,
which I think is really good. So I think back in the day, there either was a tendency to just churn out especially in the NES days, you had very literal translations.
Mm-hmm.
And
I am Bagu.
To the point where it didn't make any sense because the person translating it didn't understand the nuance of what was being said. So yeah, like puns and things like that, like Bagu and error.
Yeah, and Bagu wasn't even a pun. It's just like they didn't realize what the word was supposed. Well, but like Bagu, like it's just bug. That's it. They didn't realize that the word was supposed to be bug. Like there are some cases like that where like if you look back at it, you're like, oh duh, it was supposed to be this. Kind of like, like Alucard. Like, dude, Dracula backwards is Alucard. Like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that might have been intentional for copyright, but you know what I mean. There's some stuff where, like, if you look back, you're like, how'd you miss that?
Like one of my favorite shmup series is Gradius. It's supposed to be Gladius.
Yeah,
like a sword.
Like a sword.
Yeah. But I guess back in the day, I used to mythologize, this company called Working Designs. And Working Designs used to take niche, like RPGs and bring them over to the United States when no other company would.
Like Lunar.
Lunar,
exactly. Like Alundra.
They're most famous for Lunar, Alundra, and also a few other series, on the Saturn, like Magic Knight Rayearth and the Shining games, things like that. So like these games are great, but they didn't have any chance of coming over because at the time RPGs weren't as popular. Now nowadays, they're a lot more popular. Most big RPGs make it here, and so. You also had like Ark the Lad. They translated an entire series and brought it over as like one big pack, which is kind of cool. But what they used to do is they used to heavily alter these games. They used to change the difficulty to make it more what they thought was suited for Americans. And
the subs, like Old Man Stompy mentioned repeatedly in his Alundra Let's Play that there were changes that couldn't have been even related to what the original dialogue was, because they're like, let's just characterize the guy like this, and you just had a different. It was like a different game in terms of NPCs.
Yeah, it was also caused a lot of problems when they adjusted difficulty. They in two notable cases totally ruined a game. One game in particular was actually not many people played because nobody had the system and it was also a rare game. But Exile 2 for the TurboGrafx CD, you cannot literally get past the last gauntlet of enemies before the last boss. Unless you glitch it to the point where you knock back the character in the opposite direction.
I think I've heard about that, yeah.
You cannot beat the enemies there. They're impossible.
Wow.
Because they flipped a bit and made them too strong. You just cannot beat them. And they also ruined Silhouette Mirage. They added a whole bunch of features in the game that didn't belong there, and also messed up the game and made it less fun. So they totally ruined 2 games specifically because they wanted to make them more tailored to what they thought American audiences would want. They also like nowadays when you play something like one of their RPGs, they have very topical humor for the time. Like they have like Clinton jokes.
Yeah, like Alondra. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that kind of thing I think was okay back then because, you know, who else was going to even put it in English? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some of the games they did it for actually, like Albert Odyssey is a very dry game in Japan, and they filled it with a ton of humor that wasn't there. Kind of like, I don't know, almost like a Crayon Shin-chan or like, that's not even like
Oh,
that,
no, you know what? Like MXC for Takeshi's Castle.
Yeah,
they just made it like
that,
a different
yeah.
show.
They basically made their own thing out of something that would have been boring otherwise. So I'm okay with that. But in most games, you know, where they're crafted well,
or like C-Lab 2021,
in a specific way, yeah. If they're crafted well and done in a specific way, you don't want to deviate too much from the path. So like you also don't want a direct translation either. You want to get an idea, a conveyance, a moment of humor that will bring up the same kinds of like nostalgia for an American as they would for Japan.
Well, especially with puns, because if you do a direct translation, then it's just not a pun anymore, and you're like, "Where's the joke?" Like I remember, like this is when normally official translations don't do this, but I've seen it for like, you know, fan translations where they have like translator's note at the bottom. Here's what the joke was supposed to be. Like I've seen something like that in, for example, the JoJo Part 7 manga. There's a part where a guy narrowly avoided being bitten by a snake, and he used some word that means snake and also to avoid, and that was the joke. But English doesn't have that. So they just had him say, like, this isn't exactly what it was, but it was like, oh, that sure was close. And he, like, just did, like, hissing sounds, and then they just added, like, Scanlator's note, look, it's either this or a joke you won't understand. Like, so, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, so I guess I would say that we're way better at it right now. More Americans know Japanese and are bilingual in Japanese now because of, like, gaming culture and anime culture and other just general you know, want to learn about the culture in general. So I think we have that. We also have the internet to double check and make sure that people are doing things in a good way. So the quality is up because of that, and there's also more money being put into it. There's also a bigger audience. More people play video games now than there ever did. So and more people care about it too. They won't settle for a bad translation. They will specifically not buy a game because of it. I mean, I've seen it happen.
Unless the translation's so delightfully bad, it becomes a meme. Like the
that's something different.
Like the Part 4 Dwang subs, because it was like a Chinese super fan of JoJo, so it was like a Chinese guy translating Japanese into English, and like it was interesting.
I actually will refuse to play a real version of Castle Shikigami 2 because I think the game is fun.
Oh, it's
on its
so
own.
derp with the
It's a great
localization.
shmup, but its localization is the best.
I don't know about
It's
the translation, but the voice acting is hilarious.
Oh, they're both fantastic. And there's lots of content in that game, oddly. You know, for a shmup it shouldn't have that much story or voice acting, but it has tons.
Didn't one of those games, like out of freaking nowhere, have the girl from Time Gal as one of the playable characters?
I think so. Yeah,
she could even use as a gimmick like the time freeze, and it's like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think we hit that one up pretty well. So, having said that, I want to thank everybody, our viewers, for their lovely support in the last few weeks as we mature with our podcast and have made some strides here in coming up with our sister podcast, Reactive Consciousness. Certainly let us know how you like the new format of having 2 shows. We will be back on Thursday with the Reactive Consciousness, our Corrective Consciousness sister show that will feature more like timely topics, things that are happening that week or had just happened, and we want to go more in depth with. So let us know. Keep sending us questions and keep giving us those likes and 5-star ratings and feedback in general. We want to hear it. So having said that, have a great week. We'll catch you on Thursday.
Until
Goodbye,
next time,
everyone.